Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast. That is, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. I'm Paul Gigot, here with the Wall Street Journal podcast Potomac Watch with Alicia Finley and Kim Strassel. Newt Gingrich, the former speaker, has been heard from, as he usually is, and he has told Republicans, don't fear a shutdown. That will be just fine. Country won't miss anything, and we'll get what we want. The problem with that is that this is the speaker who pursued the shutdown strategy in 1995 because he had misjudged the politics of it. It helped resurrect the presidency of Bill Clinton and changed entirely the calculus of the 1996 presidential campaign. And what the problem with the shutdowns, in my experience, is I wouldn't mind them if I thought they would actually achieve something. But in the end, what they seem to achieve is blame for whichever party seems to be the precipitating party. And in this case, that would probably almost certainly be Republicans because Elon Musk and Donald Trump said, blow this deal up. So the real solution here, it seems to me, going into next year is the lesson for Republicans is, look, stick together, unite, put together your bill, your spending bills. Then that gives you more leverage to deal with Democrats in the Senate. And then House and Senate Republicans, sit down and govern.
Well, your point on the shutdown, I think the thing that Republicans really should fear here is that Democrats have all the power right now to make a shutdown very painful, too. It is true what Elon Musk said, that critical services do not stop during a shutdown. People are going to get their Social Security checks. The mail is going to get delivered. The military is going to keep doing its thing. Government workers won't show up for their jobs. Some people, Elon Musk, would probably celebrate that. But remember, the last time we had a shutdown, which was in 2018, 2019, Trump was in office. And his administration went out of its way to make it as painless as possible for everybody. The Biden administration will be running to the gates to shut down national parks, to shut down everything that is really going to annoy America about a government shutdown. So that is going to be very, very painful. Your point on unity is just spot on. The reason Mike Johnson had to go hat in hand to Democrats to get this deal in the first place is because those Republicans wouldn't back him on passing a CR. And again, I appreciate their frustration that we're not doing a regular appropriations process, but all you are doing in that situation when you don't back your speaker on something that really must be done to avoid a shutdown is handing all the leverage to Chuck Schumer and the White House. And that's what we're seeing happen here.
Just for a little history of the last year on the budget, the Senate Appropriations Committees did their work. They passed all of their appropriations bills except maybe one. House passed about, on the House floor, about half of the bills that they are supposed to pass. The problem in the Senate was that Chuck Schumer didn't bring any of those committee bills to the floor. And the reason he didn't is because Chuck likes these end-of-year jam sessions because he knows he can put the screws to the Republicans and get something out of them. And he doesn't have to make as many compromises as he might on policy, in particular if he passed spending bills that then were negotiated with the House and were passed on their own. So this is the way our budgeting process works now. It's totally dysfunctional. The only saving grace in this case is that there's not one of those giant $2 trillion so-called omnibus bills.
$5 trillion, Paul.
$5 trillion. I lose track. And the CR is just kicking the can down the road into next year on the budget. The way a CR works is its current spending levels continue unless there is a specific change, as there would be $10 billion for the farms, $100 billion for disaster relief, and so on. So that's a problem actually for defense, because it means that you don't get specific marching orders for defense, that they don't get to adjust spending levels for some things that are a higher priority or for for other things that they can reduce, Alicia. And the whole budget process is broken, and it makes us look like an unserious country, and the legislature as dysfunctional. And they're both right. That's right.
Right. I don't think any other country does it this way. And you mentioned the omnibuses. Usually they try to sneak in different policy priorities at the end and jam everyone. And you don't really know what's in it until, after it's been passed. And 1,500 pages in CR, there's a lot of policy in there that hasn't really been vetted. We talked about the PBMs. And
what are those, Alicia? Tell people
these
what
are
those are.
Benefit managers, and they've come under the spotlight with both House Republicans and Democrats. And there have been a number of bills that have been debated, but none that have been passed because there are a lot of potential inadvertent consequences of trying to regulate these PBMs. And so you've got a number of provisions that got jammed in here that are maybe well-intended, are intended to rein in their power because there are three big ones. But the result, I'm told, is likely that it will end up increasing patient premiums because they reduce the incentive for PBMs to negotiate lower drug prices. But this is just merely one example of policy being jammed through at the last minute, and we'll have to find out the consequences later.
Kim, a last word here. How do you think this saga is going to end? Is it going to end this week? And what do you think? Likeliest outcome?
Look, it's very hard to tell, but one thing I will note is that one reason these end of the year bills are so toxic, as you note, and you made an excellent point, that if Republicans, when they come in and they're in charge of both chambers next year, they want to avoid another problem like this, pass your spending bills, do everything you can so that you don't end up with some kind of shutdown or cliff at the end of the year that allows people to take things hostage. But the one thing that always makes these scenarios what they are is that pushing against the need to get something done is everybody's absolute desire to get the heck out of town. And that can be a useful dynamic in terms of getting the gears to unstick and get something done. But often the sausage that comes out of the other end is even less pleasant to behold in the end. So I think there's a real possibility something gets cobbled together. But my prediction is that if it is, and we don't go to shutdown, that it's going to be uglier even than the things that the Republicans were screaming about this week.
That is the history of these events. All right, Kim and Alicia, thank you. And we're here every day on Potomac Watch, the daily podcast of the Wall Street Journal opinion pages. I'm Paul Gigot. Thanks for listening.